Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Oregon Jewish Museum and Center for Holocaust Education's Zoom platform. My name is Mariah Berlanga-Shevchuk. I'm the museum's head of public engagement. We're so pleased and grateful to have you all here today. Before we dive into tonight's presentation, I just want to quickly share a little more about the museum. OJM-CHE explores the legacy of the Jewish experience in Oregon, teaches the enduring and universal relevance of the Holocaust, and provides opportunities for intercultural conversations. We have a robust programming schedule, including curator and docent-led tours of exhibitions, film screenings, book talks, panels, and discussions like these that encourage democracy and civic engagement, and so much more. Stay up to date by subscribing to our newsletter and checking our calendar for updates. Okay. The reason that we are all here tonight is because a vitally important election is upon us in just a little over a month, little less than a month, little less than a month. This year's ballot, in Portland particularly, but in Oregon too, is unusually long and complicated. There are 117 candidates for city council and mayor, as well as ballot measures and candidates running at the state, county, and city level, not to mention the federal election. So to help guide you, Kari Chisholm will walk us through what to expect when ballots arrive. If you have any questions during Kari's presentation, feel free to put them in the Q&A box or the chat. We'll have time to answer them at the end of the program. And now to introduce Kari and share a little more. In 2023, Kari Chisholm was one of 13 Portland residents appointed by the mayor to serve on the Independent Districting Commission, tasked with drawing the first ever district map as Portland transitions from at-large council members to a district-based system. That effort culminated in a 13-0 consensus decision and was widely hailed as a model for collaborative, community-based decision-making. Kari previously served as the co-chair of the Citizens Commission for Redistricting Oregon's Metro Council in 2001. For over 22 years, Kari was the founder and president of Mandate Media, a national political consulting firm based in Oregon, serving as a digital strategist and campaign consultant to over 350 elected officials, campaigns, and organizations in 32 states, including every current Democratic member of Oregon's congressional delegation. Wow. Kari was a senior advisor to Senator Ron Wyden's campaign for 19 years and to Senator Jeff Merkley's campaign for 16 years. In addition, Kari has served as an adjunct faculty member at the University of Chicago, teaching a graduate-level course in digital media policy and politics at the Harris School of Public Policy. Kari, we are all so excited to learn more from you about what to expect on our ballot this year. So thank you so much for being here as well, and turn it over to you.
Great. Thanks, Brian. I really appreciate the Oregon Jewish Museum for inviting me to be here. We have a big change happening in Portland. I'm going to share my screen here and just jump right in to this presentation. Again, my name's Kari Chisholm. I'm a partner at a new firm called Swift Public Affairs. We represent we do state lobbying, municipal lobbying here in Portland. We run campaigns and we do strategic communications for folks who have public policy challenges. So let's talk about Portland and where we're going here. There we go. First of all, in terms of our conversation tonight, we're going to talk first about where we have been in Portland since 1913 with our form of government. We're going to talk a bit about where we're going. There's a lot of change happening. We have a new form of city government. That new city government also has new city council districts. And we're installing a new election system, both in terms of how the votes are counted, as well as how the campaigns are funded. So lots of change. Any one of these could have been done all by itself. We're doing all four things really, in this one election year. And then we're going to talk about how your ballot's going to look. We're going to talk about how you are going to vote that ballot for city council and for mayor. And for those serious election nerds, we're going to talk about how the votes are counted, although that is an entirely optional part of this conversation. So, Portland City Commission. It's called the Galveston model. We are the only big city left in America that has had the Galveston model. In fact, Galveston doesn't even have it anymore and hasn't for years. The Galveston model, our Portland City Commission model, has had a mayor and 4 city commissioners. All 5 are elected citywide. The commissioners, of course, are both legislators and chief executives of the bureaus. As Luke Burbank from Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me said at an event last night here in Portland, you might be really good at running a coffee shop. You get elected to the city council. Now they put you in charge of the fire bureau. That's how we've been doing things here in Portland for the last 111 years. The mayor votes on the council, and the mayor can assign those bureaus at any time. And part of the mayor's power is that the mayor can give and take back that executive authority, and they do it all the time as part of their process. And the commissioners, though, are the ones who hire and fire bureau directors. So you might be the commissioner in charge of the fire bureau or the parks bureau or whatever, and you are in charge as the chief executive of those bureaus. Um, there are, of course, lots of things that argue in favor of that system. The commissioners are responsible; they're accountable for their bureau's actions. If you don't like how the Parks Bureau is being managed, you can vote out the Parks Commissioner. Those commissioners over time develop real expertise. For many, many years, Dan Saltzman was the commissioner in charge of environmental services, the sewers, which is great because he was an environmental engineer. That was a time when we had somebody who was really qualified to run that agency. Um, and of course, the mayor has the power to control those assignments, and he can lead the budget process. He or she can lead the budget process. Of course, the arguments against our city commission system is that tends to mean that citywide elections tend to concentrate power in particular regions. For many years, we've had a handful of neighborhoods that have elected almost every single member of our city council, from Irvington to Laurelhurst to Selwood to the west side. That's where our city commissioners have almost always come from. I mean, very few, I think it's 3 city commissioners elected from east of 82nd Avenue in our 111-year history as a city. And 2 of those 3 have been elected in the last decade. The commissioners tend to be skittish about holding each other's bureaus accountable. If you're not in charge of the Parks Bureau and you've got opinions about the Parks Bureau, you might hold off. And they often did because they didn't want, that Parks Commissioner to come after you as the head of the Fire Bureau, for example, fire department. And so they tended to actually not hold each other accountable. And what we saw was that commissioners would tend to promote the activities of their own bureaus rather than thinking about citywide needs. Lots of little fiefdoms rather than thinking citywide. So we've gotten rid of it. I think it was the 7th or 8th time that we tried to change our form of government. The city of Portland voters finally voted to change it and updated everything all at once. So here's coming. On January 1st, 2025, we're going to have a new mayor, council, city manager model of government. The mayor is still elected citywide, as you all know. We're doing that right now. We're going to have 12 city council members, from 3 elected from each of 4 districts. We're going to talk more about that in a second. And we're going to have a city administrator who oversees all the city bureaus, and with 6 deputy city administrators as key players underneath that city administrator. They've actually installed already an interim city administrator and 6 interim deputy city administrators, DCAs, and they all started in these roles on July 1st of this past year. The Mayor Wheeler, took advantage of his power to assign the bureaus, to assign all the bureaus to himself. He took the bureaus all away from the city council. 3 of them, of course, are running for mayor. They probably wanted the free time. And he took them all to himself and then delegated that authority to the city administrator in this interim way to get the city figuring out this new process. And I will say, from a perspective of someone who's had to be involved in working with the city over the last few months, it's going pretty well so far. So under this new system, the mayor doesn't vote on the council unless there's a tie. We have 12 members of the council, so there will be ties from time to time, and the mayor votes to break ties. The mayor can introduce legislation. The mayor does propose the budget, but the mayor cannot veto legislation passed by council. Passes the council, that's the law. The mayor does hire and fire the city administrator, and the mayor also is the direct supervisor of the chief of police and the city attorney. Other than his or her own personal staff, the mayor won't actually have authority over anybody else in the city other than the chief of police, the city attorney, and the city administrator. It's worth noting, by the way, the city administrator can also be fired, but not hired, fired by the city council through a majority vote. So there's going to be some amount of tension there between the mayor and the council, potentially over who the city administrator is. The city administrator oversees all the bureaus, and he or she will do that through 6 deputy city administrators. Those folks will then oversee those bureaus individually. A whole new layer of government, those DCAs, and they have all been selected already in their interim roles, and the new city administrator, presumably selected in January or shortly thereafter by the new mayor, will have the option to retain or dispatch those six deputy city administrators. I will say that the six folks who've been selected who are already there are some of the best folks we have currently working in the city, and they're so far looking like a pretty good group. Um, the city council, again, we're going to have 12 city council members elected from 4 districts. They will, once they're elected in January, have to determine their entire internal process. Some drafts are being circulated, ideas, but the council will have to figure out its own process, its own legislative process. We do know that under the charter, they will select a council president and a council vice president. That council president will set the agenda for the council. It remains to be seen what kind of council president we're going to have. Will it be someone who is sort of a consensus builder, a person who's just helping them sort of collaborate and figure out as a convener what the 12 members want to do? Or will it be someone more like a Speaker of the House, someone who has been elected by the council to drive an agenda, set a vision, and move forward? We'll see. The council, again, no longer in charge of bureaus, will have basically 3 roles. Again, legislation, which will be now done through a committee process. We don't have a committee process right now at City Council. Right now, when they do hearings, the whole City Council sits, and the public comes in and has just testify. Under this new system, there will be committees, and the committee place will be where legislation is developed, and where the public will have a chance to testify. By the time it comes to council, they'll be voting. They'll be discussing amongst themselves, and they'll be voting as a legislative body, much as you do in the state senate or the state house. Nobody testifies. The public doesn't testify in front of the entire state senate. They do it at committee level. One advantage that has is that right now, oftentimes when the city's considering a policy, it gets sort of deliberated and sorted out behind closed doors. No more than 2 members of the council can ever meet to talk about public policy. Otherwise, it's a quorum in a public meeting. But their staff will tend to get together and sort these things out, usually behind closed doors, usually with stakeholders. By the time something comes to council, it's pretty baked. It's kind of done. There are occasionally amendments at the council level, and sometimes there is some question as to whether there are 3 votes to pass something. But the proposal is pretty much done. Under this new system, they're going to go through committee process, and we're going to see proposed legislation in public before it's completely baked. They're going to have amendments and hearings, all that stuff, and then it will move to the full council for final approval. They'll be also working on the budget, of course, and they'll be doing constituent services. In fact, one great advantage of this new system is the amount of time that will now be given over to these city council members to really be out in the community. There are going to be district offices, and they'll be working on constituent services. One of the big questions about constituent services, though, is what level of engagement will individual council members have directly with bureaus? For example, if you call into your council member and say, there's this terrible pothole on my street, will that council member be able to call directly to the PBOT department that is filling potholes? Can they go directly to the director of PBOT? Will PBOT have a council liaison manager? Will the council be asked to go up to the deputy city administrator to provide that feedback, or all the way up to the city administrator? What kind of control will the city bureaus have with respect to council members? How will they interact? Will it be through a liaison office or directly with the guy pouring the concrete, as it were? In Congress, members of Congress often work directly with agencies. Grandma needs a Social Security check. There's a person they'll contact. Grandpa needs veterans benefits. There's a person you contact. And members of Congress have direct access to the agencies. The question here is, what will that be like? You can imagine these new council members will want to have lots of control, lots of input, lots of ways to get things done. You can imagine that the city agencies would prefer to have that sort of centralized or controlled, so that they're not dealing with incoming from 12 members of the council who, well, control their budgets. Lots to discover in this new system. So let's talk about districts. As was mentioned in the introduction, I was one of 13 members of the Independent Districting Commission appointed by Mayor Wheeler. We engaged in a 9-month long process in 2023, looked at 200 draft maps. I might have made 20 of them myself. And did 10 hearings. We participated in 70 briefings of stakeholder organizations, and we got over 1,000 public comments. It was a pretty intensive process. I will say that the 13 people on that commission were some of the most extraordinary people I've ever had a chance to work with. It was extraordinarily diverse in all the possible ways, ethnicity, gender, neighborhood, professional background. We had retired, city planners. I was the one political consultant, folks who work with nonprofit organizations, people who are, from the business community. It was an extraordinary effort, and yes, it led to a 13-0 vote in the end. I will say that one of the first things we did was we started talking about our values and what we wanted to see in this districting map. And I think it was in the first or maybe second meeting, we all agreed very quickly that the first thing that had to be done was we had to deal with the fact that East Portland has often been disenfranchised and ignored by City Hall. And the best way we could ensure representation was to have a district that was clearly an east of 82nd, east of 205 district. The district is also, by the way, largely a non-Portland public schools district. That was something I recognized early on. When City Council often talks about we need to support the schools, we're almost always talking about Portland Public. But we have 3 more districts in the city of Portland that overlap large parts of the city of Portland. And Centennial, David Douglas, and Reynolds. And it's important that if we're going to support schools, we support East Portland schools as well. And so that's almost the first thing we did was draw that line. It's 82nd down south and 205 up north, and then it goes over and grabs the airport. But that was very important to all of us. So here, there we go. All right. What were the requirements for the maps? Well, they're basic legal requirements that are both based on the U.S. Constitution as well as in the charter reform. Of course, they had to be contiguous and compact. We had to, as much as possible, use existing geographic and political boundaries. As much as possible, not divide communities of common interest. No, that's not, you must unify communities of common interest. You should not divide them as much as possible. They should be connected by transportation links. And they should, of course, be as close as possible to equal population, about 160,000 residents in each district. And that's residents. That's not citizens. That's not voters. That's not adults. It's residents. So you literally look at the U.S. Census, which counts every single nose in the city, divide that by 4, and the goal is to be within a couple of percentage points of equal population. It does, however, mean that there are different numbers of voters in each of the districts. District 1, the Eastern District, has far fewer voters than District 4. That has to do with number of children, has to do with number of citizens, it has to do with the number of people who just registered to vote. So they're equal numbers of residents, but not equal numbers of voters. Districts 1 and 2 will be electing folks to 4-year terms in this election. District 3 and 4 in this election will be electing people to a 2-year term. And then starting in 2026, Districts 3 and 4 will again elect the folks to a 4-year term so that then we're a rotating process where starting in 2026, Districts 3 and 4 will go. In 2028, Districts 1 and 2 will go, and back and forth and so on. Why? Well, we wanted to make sure that there were elections in every 2 years and not every 4 years. So we have always a rotating cast in the city council. That was a decision made by the Charter Commission. The Independent Districting Commission, we were responsible for selecting the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and to do so in a way that, again, 1 and 2 would elect 4-year terms, and 3 and 4, I got that backwards. I'm sorry. No, that's right. No, I got that right. I'm sorry. 1 and 2 are 4-year terms, and 3 and 4 are 2-year terms. Why? Because we wanted to maximize the number of voters overall that vote in these elections. 1 and 2 have lower voter turnout, and so they are going to be on presidential election years. 3 and 4 have historically had greater voter turnout, and so they're going to be on the non-presidential years or the gubernatorial years. And by alternating back and forth, we're going to maximize the total number of voters who participate in our city council elections over that 4-year period. All right. So, how is this different than our past elections that we've done for city council? Well, first of all, there was no primary in May. It used to be we had a May primary, and the top two would go to November. Now, everyone runs in November, and some of these folks have been running for a long, long time. As far back, I think the first candidates got in August of 2023. So they've been at this now for 16 months. It's a November election. It is, of course, nonpartisan for Portland City Council. And our mayor will be elected in a single winner, of course, ranked choice vote election. We're going to talk about that at great length. And our council members are elected in three winner ranked choice votes. So if you live in District 4 on the west side, for example, your ballot will have 30 candidates, and three of them are going to win. We're going to talk a lot about how that works. In addition to this ranked choice voting system, we're also now doing a public campaign financing system. That's not totally brand new, but the way it's being implemented this year is new in different ways. It's a voluntary opt-in system, although almost everyone has opted in with the exception of a handful of candidates who got in so late, like late August, that they couldn't make the qualifications, which were in early September. We're going to talk first about the small donor election system, and then we'll talk about the ranked choice voting. So small donor elections, again, it's totally voluntary. To qualify, candidates raise a qualifying number of $5 donations from Portland residents. I'll tell you how many that is in a second. Up to $20 per donor, again, Portland resident donors, are matched 9-to-1. So if you donate $20 to a candidate for city council and you're a Portland resident, your $20 is matched with 180 of public funding to become $200. It's a huge shift in the favor of grassroots funded campaigns. Regardless, if you're in the system, the contribution limit is $350. So that's the max. It's worth noting that those $20, first of all, as a Portland resident, you can give $5 donations to as many candidates across the city as you like, and they all are help them qualify for the small donor system, and you can give $20 to lots of other to as many candidates as you like across any district, and they all are all matchable. And that's different this election cycle. Previous elections, last several elections, we had what was called the land rush rule, which meant that as a donor, only my first $5 donation helped someone qualify, and only my first $20 donation was matchable. That put a tremendous sort of bureaucratic load on the system because they have to see who got the first election from Kari Chisholm, and it put a tremendous load and uncertainty on the candidates because they didn't know when they asked me for $20 if it was matchable or not. And so they spent a lot of time trying to sort of, again, land rush donors. That's why in some cases, some candidates got in early this year because they thought that was going to be the rule again this year. And it's not. There's that $350 contribution limit overall. If you don't opt into this system, you don't get the matching thing, and you're subject to a $579 limit based on a ballot measure called honest elections that Portland voters passed before they passed the small donor elections system. So that small gap between 350 and 579 is why a lot of folks decided to go with the to opt into small donor elections. There wasn't a lot of reason not to, unless you were just got in too late. So mayoral candidates, there's only one tier. In order to qualify for matching donations, mayoral candidates had to find 750 $5 or more donations from Portland residents. If they do that, they get $100,000 in matching funds. Now, of course, in order to get to $100,000, again, it's 9-to-1, so they had to raise essentially $10,000 in small donations, and they do that, they get to the $100,000 in matching funds. That was supposed to be under the law $750,000 in matching funds. But due to budget constraints, because this election, again, we have not just 2 city council elections, we have 12, and we have not the usual 12 or 15 or 20 candidates. We have 98, and a whole lot more of them are matchable because they got rid of the land rush rule. So these mayoral candidates are now capped at $100,000 in matching funds, not 750,000, which has meant it's been much harder for every candidate running for mayor actually pull together the kind of funds they need to run television ads and send direct mail and all that sort of thing. You're seeing a lot less stuff in your mailbox, on your TV, in probably a little bit more in digital ads. 5 of the 19 candidates for mayor have qualified, and the ability to qualify is now over. The deadline is passed. So the five are Carmen Rubio, Rene Gonzalez, Keith Wilson, Mingus Mapps, and Leave Osus. They've qualified. They've received 100,000, or they'll receive up to $100,000. I believe Leave Ostus is up to 85 now, and she can continue to raise and climb to that $100,000 mark. The others have all maxed out that 100K. On the city council side, there are actually three tiers. 250 donations qualifies you for $40,000 in matching funds. And they had to do that by early September. Having gotten into the system by early September with the 250, they can continue to climb towards 750 donations to qualify for $80,000 in matching funds, and then 1,250 donations to qualify for $120,000 in matching funds. Again, 40, 80, and $120,000 are the tiers. That's down from what was expected to be 100, 200, and $300,000, again, due to those budget constraints. And 47 of our 98 candidates for city council have qualified. And yes, that's a correct number, no typo there. 98 people are running for Portland City Council in this election. No more than 30 in any one district. And 47 of them have qualified for matching funds. And so there's an enormous amount of money going out the door. And they're all chasing these donations. So let's turn our attention now to ranked choice voting. That's what the ballot is going to look like. You're going to see candidates on the left-hand side in a column, and you're going to see 6 columns where you can vote. Now, some people say it's very complicated. I have argued repeatedly with many, many people. I don't think it's that complicated. I think any 4-year-old can go to Baskin Robbins and tell you their 6 favorite kinds of ice cream in order. That's all you have to do. Identify your 6 favorite candidates and rank them how you like them. There's some homework. You got to get out that voters pamphlet and decide who you like. Identify what endorsements matter to you, what issues matter to you. Have you met someone? Have they come to your door? But all you have to do is rank your top 6 and rank them how you like them. We'll talk more about that in a second. But that's the idea. And that's going to be true for both the mayor ballot and the city council ballot. They're both going to look exactly like this. Now, you don't have to rank. The rule is you rank up to 6, but you don't have to use all those ranking slots. But you can't rank one candidate in 2 spots. You can't say this person is so great, I'm going to be my first place and my second place and my third place. That won't make any difference at all. They're going to eliminate the extra rankings and just advance your lower ranks up higher. By the same token, you can't rank multiple people in the same rank. That'll wipe out all of your votes. Don't rank 3 people in first place. That will count as nobody. And whoever you put in your second will come up and be your first. So, every row, every column should have exactly 1 bubble filled. Up to 6 different ranks. Again, you can rank up to 6. You don't have to. But my recommendation, and we're going to come back to this after we talk about how the votes are counted, my recommendation is that you should use all 6 spots. That maximizes your personal influence on the outcome, right? If you love someone, rank them number 1. There's no more strategic voting going on here. If there's someone you hate, definitely rank 6 people so that that person you don't like is off the board entirely. If you leave blank spots, it means that everyone you've left unranked is tied in your mind, and you will no longer have influence on the outcome if it comes down to that. You're going to hear a lot of folks out there, organizations saying, here's our top 3, or rank these 2 and don't rank these other people. That's all fine. Organizations that are endorsing, they have their own strategic reasons for why they're saying that. But as a voter, if you want to have the maximum influence on the outcome of the election, rank all 6. And you don't need to worry about, is there some strategy that you need to do? Part of the whole reason ranked choice voting exists is because of the 2000 presidential election, where you had a large number of voters out there who really liked Ralph Nader. And their second choice would have been Al Gore. You vote for Ralph Nader, Al Gore loses the election because in Florida, those folks, who would have voted for Gore voted for Nader. And so George Bush has the most votes. We can not talk about the rest of the nonsense around the Supreme Court and all that. But that's where this really comes from, is the idea that, there are spoiler candidates. There are candidates you might like. You have to vote for the lesser of 2 evils in order to make sure that the person you really hate doesn't get elected. Ranked choice voting is designed to eliminate that. The whole idea is you rank them how you like them. No need to do any strategic voting of any kind. Rank them how you like them. If you like someone the best, vote them number one. You like someone second best, vote them number two. If there's someone you hate, make sure you rank all six and leave that person off. If you rank two and then leave the rest blank, that person you hate may have other people voting for them, and you've abandoned your ability to advance someone above them by ranking someone three or four or five or six.